Welcome to this legacy video. Today we're interviewing Janice Margaret Morison, nee Ragg, and here she is.
Hello, thank you. I'm Jan. Not many people ever called me Janice. My mother did when she was cross with me, but that wasn't very often. And I don't remember too much about my early childhood, except it must have gone pretty good. No great problems. I remember the snowfall we had when I was about 4 or 5. It was in 1945. Great snow, lots more snow than I've ever seen before. And then later on we had the polio epidemic. That was a bit scary, though it didn't matter to me. All it meant was that I couldn't go out and play, couldn't go out past the letterbox, and all the other kids in the street couldn't come and play. But we got over that. I remember the first telephone we ever had. Great excitement. Party line. Black rotary telephone. We had to wait for our own special ring before we could answer the phone. Later on, Mum and Dad bought a caravan. We belonged to the caravan club, and we would go away for weekends camping in all the different spots around the general Canterbury area. One thing that sticks in my mind with the caravan rallies we went to was the newspapers. Whoever organised this particular rally had to organise with the local shop to pick up X number of newspapers on the Saturday night. But it took about 5 carloads of men to go down to the local store, which was always close to the local pub, and pick up all the newspapers.
Tell us about your school life, starting Summerfield.
School. I went to Summerfield School. My first day at school was fun. When I got there and the bell went for morning playtime, I thought it was home time. So I came home. Mum wasn't at all happy, so she had to take me back again. But it was very close. All I had to do was to go down the street, about 3 or 4 houses distant, through the park, and I was there. Piece of cake. Always played on the swings on the way home. I went to Christchurch South Intermediate School, which was a little bit further away than primary school was, but not too far. But I remember I had a bike and had to learn to ride it. Didn't much think much of intermediate school. Actually, I didn't like school at all. But I did like the cooking and the sewing, which is a bit stupid because I don't like cooking now. But I guess it was better than maths and geography and stuff. And later on I went to high school at Christchurch Girls High and hated it there. Not that the school was too bad, but I just didn't like school.
And I hear you got a detention there.
Oh yes. Fancy that, me riding my bike home from school down Colombo Street without my gloves on and my hat hanging on the back of my head with the elastic around my neck. So, I think my one and only detention. After I'd left high school, which I was highly delighted about, I went to a little salon in Casual Street upstairs, and I did sewing. We made wedding dresses, bridesmaids, mother of the bride, lots of fancy evening wear. I remember there's a fella in the office next to us. He was some driving instructor, and he was a creep. All of us ladies, when we had to go up the stairs, we used to try and dodge him. Ugh. Things you remember. Yeah. After that place unfortunately closed down, I stayed at home for a while, did sewing at home, and then I got a job at Minson's in Colombo Street. Just a temporary job it was, just a couple of months till Christmas. And I was working in the cutlery, silverware, souvenirs and things. And ended up staying there 5 years. Did the buying for the the cutlery and silverware. And yeah, we'd moved to New Brighton Road at this stage, and as a family, and had a nice house there. That's where I was married from. But I see just recently it's been pulled down. No doubt it was damaged in the earthquakes or sold to some conglomerate.
Right, so tell us about your scouting days now.
My scouting days. Oh, well, that started with a visit I had one night from a friend of my parents, Rosalie Sterrett, who as far as I know is still alive, and she must be well up in her 90s now. She came to see me one night and asked if I'd like to come and take cubs. Well, Rosalie was a policewoman and she came dressed in her uniform, and I was too scared to say no to her. So I went along to cubs and admire her. And best thing I ever did. Loved it. So eventually I started the second pack. No, I didn't. Fred Foster came along, and between us, the two of us, we started the second cub pack at Mariha. And then Fred left, took on a different or district positions, and I took over the cubs and was there for many years. And eventually I went to Marshland. They were short of leaders, and I was there for a long time, till I retired. In total, it was about 54 years, totally. I think during the time that I had my family, shortly after I went back to cubs, I went to Redwood Cubs just because it was just round the corner from home, and it was good, but different people, so I was quite happy to go back to the Marshland pack. Yeah. Did a brief stint at as a district leader, but didn't like that. Liked being with the kids.
Tell us about the scouting awards that you received.
Oh my goodness, I had a few scouting awards. Bronze. Got a Tiki and a silver tui.
Get your wood badge.
I've got the wood badge. Yes. And got some mayoral award. Remember having morning tea with the mayor, Gary Moore, to get some award. And I remember going to get something. Kathy Ross and I went, got some civic award, and I was bending down doing my shoes up, and all I could see was the stockings and the funny pants of the town crier and all his funny gear. And I got the giggles, and Kathy and I were trying to be solemn so we could get this award, and we both got the giggles. But I think the best thing, or the thing that I remember most, was getting the QSM, Queen's Birthday Honours, and the trip to Wellington to get the medal. It was rather special. And I've also had a life membership from the Scouts. So I guess I'll be a life member till I am no longer.
Tell us about some of the places that you've worked and volunteered over the years.
Some of the places I've worked. Goodness. I went to the IHC in Kilmarnock Street, first of all as a volunteer, and then later on I was told that there was a job becoming vacant and I was to apply for it. They had to go through all the official channels. I didn't want to at first because it was going to be full-time, and the two kids were not really old enough to be left. So I said no, I wasn't going to do it. But anyway, they insisted that I did apply for the job. So I duly did, and got the job. So I worked there for about 5 years. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, it was fun. During part of that time I had to go to Teachers Training College and do a course on how to teach intellectually handicapped adults. And strange as it may seem, I quite enjoyed the time at training college. Later on I went to Cunliffe House Rest Home and worked there as a nurse aide. I worked for about 15 years there. Longest time I'd worked anywhere. It was good, I really enjoyed that. I retired from the workforce from Cunliffe House. In fact, I retired twice, I think. I retired once, and then they got short of staff and rang me up and wanted me to go back just to help out. So I did, and stayed another couple of years, but no, it was a good place to work. And the Nurse Maud Hospital, I went there after Neil had been so well cared for in there. I thought I'll go back sometime and volunteer here. So I did, and I was there for over 10 years just volunteering, making the cup of tea, talking to the people, playing skittles with them, and reading papers, mail, writing letters, whatever they needed doing. So that was good too.
Tell us about your father, Jim Ragg.
My dad. He was a good dad. I got on well with him. He was worked in the post office all his life that I know of. He started off after school delivering telegrams, And I think most of the time he was in the parcels branch in Christchurch, and he would have to go on, you'd have to go down to Littleton and wait for the train to come through from Invercargill with all the mail and the parcels to go onto the ferry. Would all get loaded on the boat and do the overnight sailing up to Wellington. On Friday, because we had no school the next day, my brother and I would be allowed to go down with Mum on the train to Littleton and we'd watch all the gear getting loaded onto the boat, cars and caravans going up on a sling. It was most exciting. After a while, Dad decided, or once my brother and I were both married and away from home, Dad decided he would finally take a transfer, and usually for more money. I guess that was the reason. So he got a transfer to Whangarei, and they were up there for quite a few years. The idea was that he was only going to be there a couple of years and then come back to Christchurch again. But anyway, the post office, like other government departments, changed the rules and things didn't quite work out. So it was some time before he at least managed to get a job or transfer to Nelson, which was at least in the same island. And they lived there for a long time too. That was a nice place. Good to go for a holiday. And now his parents. My granddad, I don't remember very much. He died when I was very young. But Dad's mother, she was lovely. Got on well with her. She did all the outside, exciting, adventurous type things. She was a roller skater. And she did rifle shooting, which was probably unusual for a woman in that age. She played croquet and had this lovely house down at New Brighton by the beach. So we would go and stay with her, and it was good, only a couple of minutes walk to the beach. And she had chickens there and this most divine nectarine tree. Beautiful. Yeah.
Now, tell us about your mother, Nancy Ragg, who was a Daniel.
Nancy, Mum. She was always sewing. I remember from a very early age, the machine was always out on the sewing cabinet. And she'd be sewing something. She made all my clothes. I remember one time she'd made this dress, and I hadn't had a chance to try it on and get it fitted or anything, get the hem done. So she told me when I came home from school, I wasn't to go out to play till I tried this dress on. So when I came home, Mum wasn't home, so I tried the dress on, it looked all right, so I hung it back up again and went out to play. And of course got into trouble when she got home because I hadn't tried it on. I said I had. Never mind. We got over that. Both Mum and Dad were very musical people, because in those days they would have parties, lots of parties, and they'd all have a sing-song. No television in those days, nothing else. And all the people would come and play their musical instruments. Goodness knows how good any of them were, but I know Mum and Dad were quite good. Mum would play the piano, Dad would play the piano accordion. He had a slide trombone and he had a mandolin. and something else, trumpets and things. Had a lot of fun. They were all very musical. Yeah. Now, Mum's parents, Granddad Daniel, he was a cabinet maker by trade, had his own business, made beautiful furniture. He had all the timber in a big heap stored in his backyard. And whenever we had some family functions, all of us cousins would go out and play, because we weren't allowed inside with the adults. We'd go out and play on all the timber. It was great. Osh would have had a field day. No one ever got hurt though. So, yeah, he was good. And my nana, she was a very stern lady, very formal. Whenever you went there, you had to behave yourself, sit up straight. Children should be seen and not heard. Don't ever remember having a cuddle from her.
Your brother was nee Ragg. Tell us a bit about Uncle Ian.
Well, he was younger than me, and we didn't always get on well when we were kids, always arguing. I was older, I knew best, not always. Later on we became friends when we got a bit older, got a bit more sense probably. He went to Cubs and Scouts. He went through, I think it was called Senior Scouts in those days, Ventures. He got his Queen Scout award. And when he left school, he also did an apprenticeship with a joinery factory. And he did, I think he finished his apprenticeship, but he had to leave shortly afterwards because the dust became a problem to him. Got in his lungs, so the doctor advised an outside fresh air type job. So he managed to get a job at Spencer Park as a ranger. And in the course of that job, he did a lot of their woodworking things, made a lot of the signs for around the park, around the area, and they moved to live in Spencerville. So he joined up with the Brooklands Fire Brigade, Volunteer Fire Brigade. Sadly, he became ill, very, very short illness, only a couple of days, and he died very young, just at 53.
Right, tell us how you met Dad.
How I met Neil. Goodness me. So, in the latter years when my brother and I were friends again, we would go out together. We went to a dance one Saturday night at Spencer Street. There was only 3 dances in Christchurch, I think. It was Spencer Street, St John's, and the YWCA in Cranmer Square. But anyway, this night we went to Spencer Street, and I met Neil there, and that was that. He was boarding at the time in Ashburton because his parents had moved to Christchurch, but he was working down in Ashburton, so it wasn't too long after he met me that he asked for a transfer to Christchurch, which he duly got. and he stayed with the same firm all his working life, even though it changed names and was merged and taken over and sold and taken over again. And it started off as the NMA, National Mortgage Agency. And goodness knows, then that was a stock firm. And he used to enjoy going to the sales, stock sales, at the Addington showgrounds, Addington stockyards, which I believe is now the car park for the hospital shuttle bus service. He ended up being the administration manager, doing all the wages for the staff and accounts and things. And in one of the many mergers, they joined with another car company, it was, from Ashburton, and they bought Dunedin. And that company, Andrew Sims, merged with Gary Donathorne, and Andrew Sims bought his own accountant who had all the letters after his name, and the company then didn't need two accountants, so the other fella got the job because he had all the letters after his name. So Neil was made redundant, and we were living on the farm at that stage, but he stayed home and just worked around home for a while. But we'd been going out together for a few years, and were finally married at St Mary's Anglican Church in Papanui Road. I see that's gone now too, gone the way of earthquakes, and married there in 1964.
Tell us about your two children, Andrew and David.
Andrew and David. Well, Andrew came first, obviously, in 1967. We had a bit of difficulty having him, and I think he was actually about 3 days old before I even got to see him. And but anyway, he turned out not too bad. And then Mum came and stayed later on when I was due to have David, and I was tearing out the door. Her last words to me were, "Hope you get a daughter." I said, "No, I just wanted another son." So that was it. I got another son. I thought I was pretty smart.
Two lovely boys.
Two lovely boys. Yes. They were good. They had lots of fun growing up. We had lots of kids in the street, little blind cul-de-sac street. And there must have been about 10 or so kids, nearly all boys, all around the same age. So there was always kids in to play. Yeah, we were in Opal Place then, in our new house. We loved going up to Cheviot to see Auntie Marion and Uncle Bob. And the kids loved it up there. They could get dirty. Yeah, my two boys have been a great deal of pleasure to me over the years. Never caused me any great distress. There was just that one incident, which I won't mention. But anyway, they've given me, between them, 2 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. They've both got one each. They didn't have my mother breathing down their neck. And that's been lovely. Lovely grandchildren. Yes.
Now, just to finish off, have you got any messages for your future great-grandchildren?
Great-grandchildren. Goodness, that's wee way in the distance, I hope. Yeah, just don't think of your grandparents as just old people. We're only old on the outside, where the wrinkles are. Inside, we had the same dreams and hopes that you have. And we were the same age as you once. Just wanted the same things out of life. Yeah, it's been a good life. It's good. Hadn't finished yet.
Hope not.
Mm.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for talking to us.